in general. The history of Pellicano hotels is actually related back in time. In the 60s, there was this beautiful woman. She was a very rich socialite living in California. And one day she was reading a newspaper and she fell in love with the story of this British pilot. He became really famous for saving his life, jumping out of a plane that was crashing without parachute. So Michael Graham was featured in many of the newspapers of that time. And she literally cut out the article and she said, oh my God, this hero, I really wish I could meet him one day. And guess what? They actually met one day in California in Pelican Point, which is why our hotels are called Pellicano hotels. So we have no pelicans at the hotels or in Italy. And the name is really the Italian name of the romantic place where the couple met. It is important to share the history of Pellicano hotels because nowadays it's really part of our tradition, is what we try to keep and share with our clients. The couple, they got married and then they arrived in Europe, they were traveling. When they arrived here in the southern part of Tuscany, they found this beautiful piece of land given to them by a nobleman at the time, Mr. Tinti Contini. And they decided to build a little club. It was a private club. Her friends were Charlie Chaplin, Harry Fonda, Elizabeth Taylor. We're talking about the highest, model actors, men from the politics, economics. So it was a very, I would say, well-educated and relaxed environment. With time, one day, a man fell sick on a boat and landed. The first place to land was Pellicano, so he arrived there. This man was Mr. Roberto Shaw. Mr. Roberto Shaw, or Dr. Roberto Shaw, as we call him, is the current owner of Pellicano Hotels. He's 85 years old, and he was a client of the hotel before actually acquiring it in the 80s. What happened in the 80s is that what Miss Patsy Diesel and Michael Graham created was really La Dolce Vita was a place to stay. So Il Pellicano became really a place where people wanted to spend their time during summer. So how did that look at that time? That's how it looked. People were enjoying their days. They were drinking champagne. That's what La Dolce Vita is all about. They were reading books, sharing conversations and enjoying life, basically. Then with time, we'll come later to La Posta Vecchia, which is the beautiful villa you see here, because Dr. Shaw is then the connecting point to it. These are just some pictures. And in this picture, you see little daughter, Mary Louise, and less little daughter, Mary Louise, nowadays, who's now our CEO and creative director. The history is very important because it's related to the territory. So we have here the beautiful southern region of Tuscany. We are at the bottom of a mountain and surrounded by water, which makes really a special place of Il Pellicano. This is what it looked like at the beginning. We only had a little, central part. Then Dr. Shaw, when he acquired the place from the couple in the 80s, he started also acquiring the private houses. And these were houses belonging to Marta Marzotto, Charlie Chaplin, and all these famous people. So with time, Il Pellicano became what it is today, a 52 rooms property. The style at the beginning was really an homage to Tuscany and its region. Then one day when little Mary Louise actually graduated and she became an architect, she went to her father and said, Dad, I think you should remake this bathroom. It doesn't really look nice. And he said, well, okay, you remake it. And she started remaking one bathroom and then another bathroom and then a room. And then today she's actually remaking the entire hotel. And she's the one that completely designed the third property we're going to talk about in the end. So that's the beautiful scenario you have here in Tuscany. The vibe of Il Pellicano really can't be explained in words, so I'm trying to do my best to literally take you there. You have to imagine a nice breeze, this beautiful terrace of our Michelin star restaurant, the less, the more relaxed environment of the Pelli Grill, which is the other restaurant we have for lunches. And it's all with sea view, of course, very eclectic, as you see, from the bird cages and the walls. There's really an attention to detail that is really creative in every part of this place. We have a beautiful library where every book is hand selected by Mary Louise, and clients, when they enter in this library here, they can take any book and take it with them. This is the Bar Roberto, named after our owner, which is really elegant and really opposed in design to the Bar all'Aperto, where you can have a beautiful and nice Italian spritz at sunset. And very interestingly, what we're going to do this year, because Mary Louise, with time, from an architect, became a fashion designer, we are getting into the fashion world. So our boutique started selling items from her collection and collaborations with Missoni and a lot of niche designers from all around the world, really. Last year, we almost reached 1 million revenue, which means we're going to double the dimension of this boutique and give it to it a little bit more importance, because we're going to launch our own e-commerce. Well, I should say her own e-commerce, because she's the one designing the items, really. And the beautiful gym is going to be moved somewhere else, and we're going to have state-of-the-art equipment. As I said before, La Dolce Vita was really the symbol, what Il Pellicano represented in the 80s. And if you are familiar with photography and you love photography, I'm sure you know Slim Aarons, or if you Google it, you find a lot of pictures of the 80s with a lot of people, as Mary Louise says, lolling around and enjoying life here on the platform. Nowadays, you can arrive with a private boat, for example, if you want to organize a private event, or we have a landing platform for helicopters close by. All of these is part of the property. We have a beautiful wine cellar, but you know what? The wine region is really across the land. So I really suggest to take a little ride, 40 minutes, and go into Tuscany wine regions. And if you prefer staying inside, we have 1,500 labels that I'm sure is gonna be enough for the stay. So this is really about Il Pellicano. I hope I kept it in time, and it's really an atmosphere that needs to be lived and felt. Difficult, as I said, to explain in words, but I hope I gave you a little bit of the idea of what we're doing there. There's a lot of fashion, there's a lot of wellness events as well that we organize, and of course food and beverage with our amazing Michelin star restaurant. So I think there's really everything, you know, that everyone could want there.
So I see one question coming through, Flavia. It's a 52-room property, so you can have up to about 120 people at an event. Can they take the tennis court and turn it into their event space?
Yeah, they actually almost have to, in the sense that we accommodate, as you said, the calculation was perfect, about 120 people sleeping, depending on how many people you want to have for the event. So if you want to have 120 people, we will have to organize a marquee in onto the tennis court. We do that quite often, actually.
And then around the pool, all of the chairs will move, and we can do any kind of event around the pool. What you call aperitif, what we call the cocktail hour, will be around the pool, and we can use all of that space.
You can use, for events of that size, normally we require a buyout of the property. So you can use any single corner of the hotel that you wish, and the pool can host up to 120 people standing for cocktail hour.
Perfect. Thank you. Gorgeous.
Is there any other question?
Not yet, but we can continue. This is beautiful.
Okay. Just before I'm
sorry, we do have a couple of questions. Is the property kid friendly?
So on a buyout, of course, yes, you can have any guest that you want. When the property is not taken on a buyout, we have an 8 years old children policy. And that's for two main reasons. First reason is the atmosphere of the place, that it's mainly, I would say, for adults. So the quietness of the place requires a certain age of guests. And also it's quite steep. So we suggest that little kids don't really go running around, because, you know, it's up onto the Mount Argentario, so it can be a little bit steep.
Perfect. And are there nearby hotels for larger events for the overflow guests?
Yeah, so you have, I'm going to take this slide just for purpose of explaining. The hotel is here on the peninsula. You have this stretch of land that connects the peninsula of the Argentario to Tuscany mainland. On this stretch of land, you have Argentario Golf Resort. It's a 5-star hotel. It's, you know, there's different levels of 5-star hotels, so I can't guarantee it's exactly the same standard on both hotels, but it's a 5-star hotel and we collaborate with them quite often for larger events, exactly. And they have a golf camp as well.
And may I say that one of the services that we provide when we get a request from a wedding planner for their wedding party is that we source all of the alternative accommodation venues in the region, because even if you don't have more than 120 guests, for example, you might have a considerable amount, or maybe not many, but you may have people in the wedding party that just cannot afford those rates. So we're always able to source alternative options for accommodations. You don't have to worry about that.
Perfect. And then we have one more question. How far is the nearest international airport from Il Pellicano?
So even though we are in Tuscany, as you see, is quite the southern part of Tuscany. So Fiumicino Airport, it is now 1.5 hours. It was almost 2 hours before. Then, you know, after a few decades in Italy, we also managed to have a highway built there. So that's amazing. And now with 1.5 hours, you can reach Fiumicino Airport. I have to say, if clients are coming from northern Italy, if they want to land in Florence or Pisa, you can also do that. It would be 2.5 hours though.
Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, I think we're ready for La Posta Vecchia.
Yes, perfect. So as we said earlier, Dr. Show is the connecting point to La Posta Vecchia. La Posta Vecchia, you will see, is a very different type of property. It is located here on the Roman coast, so we're still on the seaside. It's 30 minutes to Fiumicino Airport, 30 minutes to the port of Civitavecchia, and about 40 minutes to Rome, depending on traffic. So it's really convenient in terms of location. Why it is so different? La Posta Vecchia is a 17th century villa. As Renee mentioned earlier, it was once the house of J Paul Getty. How did J Paul Getty land at La Posta Vecchia? So close to La Posta Vecchia, you'll see later on in the pictures, there's a beautiful castle. This used to be the guest house of the castle back in time. Nowadays, there are 2 different owners. So one day, La Posta Vecchia completely burned down. Getty actually acquired it completely burned down. We know that Mr. Getty didn't have economic problems at that time, so he restored completely La Posta Vecchia, and he created what this, I have to say, really charming place it is. I always say La Posta Vecchia is a destination hotel, and when you arrive at La Posta Vecchia, the minute you enter the gate, it's like you're entering a different dimension. Correct me if I'm wrong, Renee, because you've been there,
it's
so you
true.
know.
Totally true.
And it's really like a little piece of paradise here. 19 bedroom, 19, so very small hotel, quite a large house back in time, with 4 hectares of park and a private helipad which is in-house inside our gardens, with the vegetable gardens and all this beautiful park. We have a private beach that you see here. And one of Italy's biggest collection on a private level from the Renaissance. So J Paul Getty collected a huge amount of furniture, tapestries, paintings from the Renaissance, and really make it what La Posta Vecchia is today. We have a catalog with all the valuables that we have inside the villa. This is a highly valuable place. Everything that you see there is original. And it's really, to me, is really a particular effect when you enter, because it really feels like you're home. and you enter in this like other dimension, which is amazing. As Renee mentioned earlier, is the hotel among the three that is more used for events, because of course it's smaller, so it's easier to privatize it and, you know, organize it for different type of events. And one of the really particular thing of La Posta Vecchia is that the 19 bedrooms that we have there, they're all very different one from the other. So I always like to show some of the pictures. I'm not going to show you all 19 bedrooms, but it's really, I think, interesting to see how different they are one from the other one. The beautiful Castello suite, the Medici master suite, and the Getty master suite, which is basically the room where Mr. Getty was sleeping back in time. The front side of La Posta Vecchia is basically all about romance. It's all about charm. You have this amazing long balcony or terrace right onto the sea with a castle view. And for private events, so for private use, exclusive uses, buyouts, you can use this front terrace. If you want to have an event without having the privatization of the hotel, this front terrace will need to be kept for the restaurant. But I have to say, people normally, our clients normally prefer having the exclusive use of the property because it really feels like you're having your home there. So that's the castle and you see here, the terrace at some point becomes the terrace of the spa. And of course you could use it the way you want on a buyout.
I don't know if you have a picture of the imperial table set up on that back terrace.
I have some pictures of events at the end of the presentation that I wanted to show you. Just one more interesting fact before we move to the event picture is actually the pool. Because some people ask me, why do you have only an indoor pool at La Posta Vecchia? Well, La Posta Vecchia is not only a 17th century villa, it's a 17th century villa that was built on top of the ruins of the Roman Empire. So we forget sometimes that Rome was much bigger than today once upon a time. So when Getty wanted to tried to build this swimming pool in the garden, he found a lot of ruins. So instead of another swimming pool, we have a private Roman museum. You cannot swim in there, but I promise it's really, really beautiful experience to actually visit it. And it's of course complimentary for all our guests, and it will be at your complete use if you take a buyout of the property. And here we move to some of the events we organized. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's in the garden. The garden is, you know, endless type of shapes and, you know, fantasies that you can actually arrange your events there with a beautiful sea view. Is really, really stunning. Or weddings inside, of course. May I mention as well that from this year, we also started catering for kosher. So we can also accommodate kosher events with an external caterer that would be, of course, a kosher caterer. It has been one of our, you know, win-win of last year to have that, because of course, chef, it's really difficult, especially Italian chef, to accept that he's not going to be the one to cook for you and all of this. And this is the beautiful imperial table, I think, that you were mentioning, Renee. And this is only a part, but this imperial table was going all the way in the front terrace of La Posta Vecchia. And that was the after party. So here is basically about La Posta Vecchia. And one thing that is worth mentioning is that even though our hotels are open from April to October, La Posta Vecchia is actually available on off-season as well for buyouts only. So you can basically have it any time of the year you wish.
And again, we can help source alternate accommodations because the property will only sleep about 42. So the parties can be as big as the guests want, as big as the wedding couple wants. And there are some wonderful properties in the area. And the acreage that the property encompasses is about 7 acres. And there is garden space on the south side and the north side and behind the property. And the gardens are incredible. And the furniture on the gardens and the furniture that they use for the parties and for the dining, for the chairs, are the most beautiful quality wrought iron. I mean, every single detail here is top shelf. It is spectacular. We took a film crew to La Posta Vecchia and we filmed the property, an actual walkthrough. So it's on our YouTube channel. And after this webinar, when we do the follow-up email, we will include the video that we took on property. It is something to behold.
And can I just add, because history again is so important to us. Well, basically what happened is that in the 80s, Dr. Shaw decided to buy this seaside villa to go and live with the family. So they actually lived here for quite a few years. That's why you saw at the beginning, I will send this presentation to Renee and then she can share it with you. You saw the pictures of little Mary Louise and her mother at La Posta Vecchia back in time. And then when they decided to move back to Rome, they opened as a hotel. And what I love about this property is that the pavement that you see here, I don't know if you know this, but these little stones here, they're called San Pietrini. San Pietrini comes from San Pietro, which in English is St. Peter, and is the name of the Cathedral of the Vatican. So it's basically where the Pope stays, right? St. Peter's Cathedral. So because those little stones are used around the Vatican and in front of the church, they gave it, the Romans gave the name of San Pietrino. And it's really nice to have it here because you don't normally find it in this part of the region. You normally find it only in the center of Rome.
Since you mentioned the Vatican, I'm just going to toss in, for those of you that don't know, we had clients get married at the Vatican. It was quite something. And then,
oh, wow.
Of course, we all just drive 40 minutes north and have a beautiful party at La Posta Vecchia. But yeah, that was a pretty amazing part of our career.
Wow. That must be really, really amazing, I have to say.
This is beautiful. Thank you, Flavia.
We do have some questions about this beautiful property. The first has been answered. Is the property open year-round? So La Posta Vecchia can be, and Il Pellicano can also be for exclusive use buyout.
Il Pellicano, no. Il Pellicano is only available during opening season, so from April until October. However, for privatization, so for buyouts, it's normally in low season because Il Pellicano being so historical, we have a lot of repeaters, a lot of clients that are in their 80s, and they are used to spend with us 3-4 weeks in summer. And because the owners were clients back in time, they, even though from a business point of view, it wouldn't make sense, they decided not to take out the opportunity from them to stay at Il Pellicano in summer for buyouts. So basically, it's only April, May, September, and October at Il Pellicano.
Okay, perfect. And what is the maximum capacity for events at La Posta Vecchia?
So La Posta Vecchia, actually, incredibly enough, even though it's a smaller hotel, for events can go up to 200, 250. So it's actually the largest capacity among the 3 hotels. Sleep is 45. And for the events, if you use the gardens with a marquee tent or anything, you can go up to 200 and something. So it's really good capacity we have here.
Perfect. And what is the minimum number of nights for a buyout?
So we don't have a minimum number of nights, even because the business model of this hotel is a bit different from the other 2. We work a lot as well with pre and post cruises, which gives us the flexibility to, if someone wants to take 1 day only, he can take 1 day only. And then of course you need to consider that probably if you have a very large event, you want to take maybe the day before to do all the setup and everything.
Beautiful. That's perfect. And for all of the properties you're presenting today, are there noise ordinances?
So for these two properties that we've seen so far, no, especially La Posta Vecchia, there's literally no one around, so you can do whatever you want. And pretty same is for Il Pellicano. We only have one neighbor, but she's really nice. And for the third property, we're going to see, yes, because even though we are in the southern part of Italy, I was surprised to see that actually the government rules are much stricter than in the north. I was not expecting that. But yes, at Mezzatorre, you do have it. For these two, no.
Perfect. You can do whatever you want at La Posta Vecchia. That is amazing.
Exactly.
Okay, that is all the questions for La Posta Vecchia. So we can move on to Mezzatorre.
Good. Okay. So then how Mezzatorre came into the picture then, you know, because it's quite new to us as well. So what happened is that for 16 years, the owners were looking for a third property to add into the portfolio, which really made me smile when I heard that, because it's the same time my father took to buy the new house. I think it's a couple thing probably. So they found, after 16 years of research, this beautiful place on the island of Ischia. For those of you that are not familiar with Ischia, we are here in the Amalfi Coast, basically. Ischia is an island, part of the same archipelago of Capri and Procida. So we are here on a 3 islands archipelago, and is the biggest one of the 3. What is the main difference? Well, first of all, I would say the being local, which means Capri is amazing, is really similar to Ischia, or Ischia is really similar to Capri. And they offer quite the same things, in the sense that you have the same scenario, same panoramic views, same amazing food, the sea quality, of course, and all of that. However, on Ischia, everything that you find is more local. So the island of Ischia is about 5 times bigger than Capri, and it hosts 6 different towns. These towns are incredibly and stunningly different one from the other. So if you go to Sant'Angelo, for example, you find a little Capri, these pebbled streets with white walls, luxury shops from local brands. So you wouldn't find maybe brandy, like Cartier, Fendi, and all of that. But you find local luxury shops, including one called Il Pellicano, which not belongs to us. And maybe you go up in the mountains to Varano, and you have these little restaurants that you can't even see the writing on the restaurant. You have to knock at the door, and this little man come open the door for you. And then you go all the other side, and you have the Aragonese castle. So there's a lot of history. Why is it called Mezzatorre? Mezzatorre means half of a tower. So what you see here, same principle of Il Pellicano, is basically the heart, the main body of the hotel. And it used to be the Saracen watchtower from the 16th century. And it's called half tower because they built half of it. Then during the invasions, they realized it was not defending much, and they had to actually build the other half on top of it. So hence the name Mezzatorre. What is Mezzatorre today? Is a completely renovated, I don't like the word hotel, I would say environment. When Mary Louise, the daughter, she arrived here, she said, wow, this place has the same DNA of Il Pellicano. And don't forget, Mary Louise, she's an architect and fashion designer. So what she did is she literally dismantled everything and created a completely different style. The concept of Mezzatorre is what you see here, is a piazza, which in Italian means a square. Why that? Because Italy is famous for these little villages, these places where old women used to gather together, chatting, gossiping, and you can pretty much do the same thing here with a nice glass of champagne in your hands, which, you know, doesn't hurt. And this is really all about the concept of Mezzatorre. So these are the words that I like to use to describe it: scenic, eclectic, healing, and retro. So why eclectic? Because, for example, the entrance of one of our restaurants is like a circus tent. So it's red and white stripes with a ceramic elephant holding the lemons of Ischia. For those of you who have never heard of the lemons of Ischia, they are big as my hat outside and small like this inside. They're super fun. Healing because we have thermal water. Ischia is the only place in central southern part of Italy where you have thermal water. Retro because Ischia has a huge history linked to the movie scene of the 60s. So some of the most famous movies that you wouldn't even think about, like for example, Cleopatra, have been shot on Ischia. And I don't know if HBO released also the TV series My Brilliant Friend. In some parts of America has been released, depending on which states you are in. My Brilliant Friend is a TV series inspired to a book from an author called Elena Ferrante. Elena Ferrante is like a ghost. No one knows who she is. And it's really interesting because she's been said to spend back in time, her time here together with many directors like Luchino Visconti, for example. So there's really a lot of art going around in this place. And here are the new type of rooms. I'm just going to show you some pictures that I've taken with my personal phone in this case, because we literally had 3 months to remake completely the hotel. And then when we're going to reopen after this pandemic, someone better than me will come and take pictures. Here, same as Il Pellicano, we will have 52 rooms, including 3 signature suites. The one that you're looking at right now is one of the 3 signature suites and is perfect, for example, for bride and groom. And it has this amazing terrace, which is quite large, even though the picture doesn't show it, with a view on the Gulf of Naples. It's really amazing. And on the right, you can see the sandy beach of Negombo, which is 10 minutes walking from the hotel. The Grand Suite also has a beautiful terrace and also a very nice view from the bathtub, which I really wish we could have in this lockdown time. And that's the terrace. And then the top suite, which is called the cottage, is the private standalone cottage in the middle of the park. It's a 7 hectares park. I don't know how much it is in acres, but it's really huge. And you have here 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a mezzanine level up there for 2 little kids, and an outdoor patio, plus this terrace with sea view and park view. Really, really all private and very intimate. And here we go back to the restaurant. I mentioned the entrance of the restaurant is a circus tent, right? Well, the middle part, which is the one you're looking at it right now, is completely different. It's a matchy-matchy with the outside. So if you look at the horizon, you see that there's something like a continuity in between trees. And then outside, still you have a terrace, which is, again, different from this one. And then again, same as Il Pellicano, again, we come back to the same DNA. We have a more casual restaurant, very close to the pool, is inside here, and the beach. You can arrive here, for example, with a tender, if the bride and groom, for example, wish to arrive with a tender. And don't forget, it's healing. So also what we have here is an amazing private bay and a thermal spa. So this is the second piazzetta that leads to the entrance of the thermal spa. Thermal water is really curative, it's healing. That's why we have a doctor in-house every day to create specific programs for people. Certain treatments like inhalation or certain thermal treatments, you need to have the approval of the doctor. It is a therapy for everything, for your skin, for your breathing, for your internal organ. Is literally amazing. And again, of course, the boutique, never miss a boutique in the Pellicano hotels. And before I finish, I just want to go back 1 second to the initial picture to show you where we host the gazebo, which is here, which is something that we use for events. So the gazebo can host up to 90 people for example, round tables, and has a beautiful terrace outside. So you can do, for example, a standalone aperitivo or cocktail hour, and then have your reception inside. And 90 would be the maximum capacity for events at Mezzatorre. Even though the place is huge, it was not purpose built as a hotel. So we need to grant that the logistic is good enough to keep a nice standard of service, hence why 90 is normal, the cutoff for number of people.
Just beautiful. I would love to make a comment. Wedaways arranges for wedding planners and their couples site inspection tours. So for example, if you have a client that might be interested in Italy and they have the budget to go on a site inspection tour for a few nights, we can source all of the venues that should be high on your list to see, and we can arrange them for you and make the reservations, etc. The Pellicano Hotel Group, specifically Hotel Il Pellicano and La Posta Vecchia, were both on our fam trip that was scheduled for April that we had to cancel, unfortunately. But we plan to make that happen in 2021, God willing. And I just want to share another personal little piece of information. I got married on the Isle of Capri, and I brought our wedding party to that part of Italy, and we leased a big boat and we sailed the islands for a full day, and it was magical. And clients that have come here to Mezzatorre have had their 3 nights. They've done 3-night buyouts, and they've arrived and they've had beautiful boat trips with their guests, and then come back to the hotel early evening for a wonderful dinner, actually late evening, I should say, for a wonderful dinner. And it's just such an exclusive, high-end experience. So Flavia, we have to thank you for that, because we know that you have a lot to oversee, and the experiences are always unbelievable when our guests come. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I think it's, I want to add, it's always really a pleasure to work with Wedaways, because I think the professionalism is always top notch. So that's really important for us, because of course, you know, we need to have people that match. Same in couple relationship, you want to have also clients that share your values. And I think it's really important. So I think for anything, if someone has any question, they can reach out to Renee and Pamela directly. And of course, I will send that to you. So if you also want to share it with everyone to have some memo.
Yes.
You have that too.
We will. Pamela, do you have any other questions that have come through?
I have a few questions.
Good.
The nearest airport to Mezzatorre, can you tell us where that is?
Sure. So same as you go to Capri, you would go to Mezzatorre, you would go to Ischia. So you will land in Naples, and then you will take either a private boat or hydrofoil or ferry from the port of Naples and arrive on Ischia Island. Here, this picture helps us seeing the dock of the tender. So you can, if you take a private boat, you can arrive directly at the hotel.
Perfect.
And it's really nice because you can see the watchtower from the sea. Is really a particular experience.
Gorgeous. Beautiful. And then we know the number of rooms on property. What is the maximum capacity? How many guests can stay on property?
So let's say that when we took Mezzatorre, it was 57 rooms, is meant to become 52. So we are working, well, we were working before pandemic on that. So I'm not able to give you the exact number, but if we are going to finish everything with the 52 rooms, it's going to be more or less 115.
Perfect. And for kosher, if the guests, or if the wedding is going to be a kosher wedding, what are the options?
So for the moment, La Posta Vecchia is the only one that we managed to take on our side to get the permission to have also external catering, whether it's kosher or another external catering. But I never like to say no in advance. So I always say, if any of you have a request for kosher wedding in Ischia, please do send it to Wedaways, and then they will talk to us, and we will see what we can do, because you know things can change as we are seeing very rapidly. So never say never. We will always do our best to find it, and in that case, it will be again an external caterer that will provide it to the hotel.
and I don't know if you're going to say something, Pamela, but I'll interject for a moment. We are very well aware and have booked, or I should say have made the liaison between the wedding planners of 2 excellent kosher caterers in Italy, one based out of Rome, one based out of Milan, so north and south. And there's actually 3, but we've made arrangements with 2. And we work with, and I know Italy has like the most amazing wines, but we have a kosher wine distributor out of Paris, that if you are bringing in a group and you need to bring in the kosher wines, we can put you in touch with an excellent kosher distributor in Paris that delivers to Italy for all of the weddings that we have, you know, put in touch with the properties. So we're very well when it comes to kosher.
Of course, never say no to French wines anyway.
Yeah,
even if it's an Italian saying it, I would deny it, but never say no to French wine.
You're a good politician. Very nice.
I know. I'm a good drinker, I have to say, but you know. But I wanted to add as well that a friend of mine is the owner, he's a Jewish owner of, basically, he's a supplier of kosher meat for all the Roman ghetto. So, you know, we have a very big ghetto in Rome, the Bright district, and he's basically the one supplying all the meat to the restaurants, the kosher restaurants. So we know quite a few people, and in Rome it's quite easy to find good suppliers in that sense, because there's quite an important Jewish community. So I'm sure that the options are not lacking in that sense. So, and well, you know, a lot of people in that way, of course, more than people.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we sort of got stuck on the kosher and the Jewish part, but I have to add, since we're talking about it, that we have put together for parties that have gone to Italy and have had kosher events, amazing tours, you know, ancient Jewish tours for guests that want to have like a half-a-day experience. It's pretty interesting, the history. That's, well, I mean, in Italy anyway, it's the place, historically, culture, history, art, food, I mean, it's all there. So again, we can help put all of those wonderful excursions together, and they're fantastic.
And the Hebraic, the Jewish ghetto, the Jewish, you know, district in Rome, together probably with Monte and Trastevere, are the, in my opinion, the richest parts of the city in terms of history that we carry, whether it's, you know, sad or happy history, but it's history and is really part of our tradition. So it's really nice to actually have this kind of tours and know it, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's wonderful. This has been fantastic. Pamela, do you have any other questions?
I do not. We have a lot of attendees thanking Flavia very much for the beautiful presentation of these 3 amazing properties. And if anybody has any questions about the properties, we're going to send a follow-up email, and you are welcome to ask us anything that you think of afterwards.
Yes. Again, Flavia, God bless you. Thank you. We love you, and it's good to see you, and thank you for coming on, and you're welcome to stay. I am going to give a little sneak peek to our next week's webinar, which is a feature of a very exclusive property in Colorado. It is not publicized, and it is available for 3-night buyouts. Actually, before I share that, I just want to quickly go, I'm going to share my screen and show you on Wedaways. We have all the properties that we saw today. If you want to go and look at their profiles, there are 3 pages. You can see all about the wedding, all about the accommodations, and all about the map and points of interest of each property, which would include the distance from the airports. There are videos of the property, as well as all of their images available to look through and see things that you may not have seen on the presentation today. Here's Mezzatorre. Again, all of the beautiful images. And on each property profile, there is a messaging tool that you can send a message directly to the hotel if you prefer. And Il Pellicano, the same, with, again, the images, their entry and their grounds, et cetera, et cetera. So you may enjoy that. Okay. Now I will share with you the town. We have sent out one invitation to see this amazing Western town that, as I said, is very exclusive. One of the reasons that it's very exclusive is not only because of what it is in and of itself, it is an authentic replication of an old Western town. The way the Old West was in the United States of America when it all first started, there are over 50 fully built buildings on the property, and they house one of the most extensive museum quality collection of Western memorabilia. So the property was built by a billionaire family that was enamored with the old Wild Wild West. And so they collected memorabilia over their lifetime. And as a passion project on 65,000 acres in Colorado, they built this town. It is just called The Town. It is not offered by everyone. It is, we will be sharing this invitation. As I said, 50 buildings. There are all kinds of activities that are part of the offering. It is a minimum 3-night buyout on property. They have everything from Wild West horseback riding to the most modern Hummer ATV vehicles that you can imagine. They have skeet shooting and archery, and it's just an unbelievable experience. Again, as I said, it's 3-night buyouts that are required. I am sharing my screen with you. And this is the second part of that exclusive invitation. The webinar will be Thursday, May 14th, next Thursday. Again, 10 o'clock, same time, same station. And it will be about 40-minute webinar. And on a 3-night buyout situation, the property offers the accommodations, which sleep 70 included in the buyout. But the property itself, heads to beds, goes to 100 people. There is an additional charge for anything over 70, and we will go into all of that next week. All of the activities are included. The activities are all decided before the parties actually get there, all of the menu of offerings and the division of who wants to do what, depending on how big the party is. You don't have to bring 70 people. You can come with 20 people, depending on your budget. They have a spa. It's all created in Old Western style, but with the most modern conveniences and all of the most modern technology. There's nightly entertainment in the saloon, all kinds of exciting stuff. So we hope that you tune in. It will be by invitation only, so you will need to send us an email, please, letting us know you're interested and you might have the clientele that would be appropriate for this. And we look forward to hearing from you. So as I stop sharing my screen, we will be back to saying goodbye to everybody and thanking all of you for coming on. Flavia, again, the Pellicano.
Thank you.
It's just spectacular. We can't wait to come back. We can't wait to come back.
Oh God, you made me want to go to Colorado now. What can I do?
Come on down. We're going to have a fun trip there next year, God willing. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Pamela, thanks again for moderating. Everybody, thanks for taking your time to spend with us today. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. We'll sign off. Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.